Hello, everyone. My name is Samara Dolan, your host for Cloud News Network, and welcome back. It's been some time, but we have a very exciting conversation for you guys to start back the series of our live streams here on LinkedIn. If you aren't already following me, any links from this live stream will be shared via an article. So go ahead and connect or follow with me on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get access to all the resources, the slide deck, and what have you that we shared during tonight's live stream. We have some incredible guests. So I'll go ahead and introduce them soon. Before I do, the topic that you are signing yourself up for tonight is bringing AI demos to life from sales demo to customer production. So as I get our guests onto the screen, if you can go ahead in the comments and let me know where are you all joining in from, so that we can know around the United States or internationally where are folks joining the conversation, because our guests today are spanning across West Coast, East Coast, all across the US. But I know sometimes we have some folks that actually stay up in the evening and join us for our conversation. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and add our guests to the screen so they can go ahead and introduce themselves. Welcome.
Hey,
I'm so
Samira. Hey,
excited.
everyone.
Hi.
Hello. So excited to have you all for our first live stream of 2026.
Mm.
And as we're getting things going and folks are joining the live stream, I'll start with Nadia, then go to Shelby. Would you introduce yourselves a little bit about what you do?
Thank you, Samira. Good evening, everyone. So excited to be here. This is my first LinkedIn Live. Super exciting. So I'm Nadia Hansen. I lead go-to-market strategy for local government. I cover all of US. Before joining Salesforce, which was about, my gosh, almost 5 years ago, believe it or not, I used to be and had the privilege of serving in government. I was the chief information officer for a tiny city called Las Vegas. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's about 2.4 million people. I have the privilege of serving as the chief information officer, saw the city grow, led a lot of digital transformation initiatives, been in public sector space for 15 years, and excited to share some of the AI trends and things that we're going to be talking about today. And I'll pass it
Beautiful.
to
Thank
Shelby.
you.
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. So excited to be here, everyone. I'm Shelby. I've also been at Salesforce around 5 years. So similar to Nadia, I lead an AI research team. So my team builds a lot of models. We innovate, we publish papers, we open source. So we just have a lot to discuss today because it's about building AI, but also getting AI in the hands of customers. There's a lot to discuss there. But before I was at Salesforce, I was in grad school. I did a PhD in machine learning, which is basically the foundation of AI. So a lot of good stuff to talk about today.
Beautiful. Yeah, I was saying in the description for this live stream for everyone joining that the thing that bonds all of the workforce together right now is we're either building AI, an end user of AI, like AI is impacting all of us in some way. It's like, I was thinking this earlier for those who've seen Mean Girls before, but it's like the Regina George of the workforce right now. We're all somehow impacted. You either get to wear pink with us on Wednesday or you just don't. Either way, AI is involved in your life in some way, good or bad, just like Regina George and Mean Girls. For those that are joining, because we're all three of us are coming from different backgrounds, if you guys can share in the chat, what is your background? What role do you have? We're curious, is this an audience of engineers? Is this an audience of folks in R&D? Is this an audience of folks in government? Is this an audience of folks that were students that are just trying to get into the workforce? Part of the conversation tonight is we will talk about the career aspect. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'll just go ahead and bring it on stage. This conversation tonight is going to have multiple layers. We will start off with getting into the field. We'll talk about AI trends. We'll have that demo to production conversation, and then we will end. So as we have the conversation, go ahead and interact and drop questions in the chat. I'll be able to see them and then pull them up to the screen so that Nadia or Shelby or myself can provide some perspective or insights. So go ahead and continue to drop what your job is, what's your role, to help us understand kind of the backgrounds of of who's joining the conversation tonight, because it truly is a conversation. Like, all three of us can go on and on, but we wanted to open up the space so that other folks can join the conversation with us and we don't just go on and on amongst ourselves sharing this great juicy insights about what we're all individually building. For those that don't know, because I didn't mention it at the beginning, I am also at Salesforce as well as a solution specialist. So that's one thing that unites all three of us here, is where all of us work, but also all of us are just really amazing ladies doing different work across different domains. So I think it's very exciting that we're able to bring our different perspectives to the conversation tonight. It looks like from the chat, we have a bit of entrepreneurship and small business owners. So I think that's really cool, different perspective around the AI world, especially for small business. You have to figure out how to use AI, how to be effective, but also AI could be expensive, which I think this would be a good part of this conversation. We have Jean coming in from sales, marketing to public safety and government. That sounds like your world, Nadia.
It is. I'm excited to share some of the cool stuff.
Yes, and welcome. We have information systems student. Excited to have you. Yeah, so continue to let us know what your role and background is in the chat, and that'll help us figure out how to tailor the conversation and where to give specific perspectives to help you as you guys are going into or working with the field of AI. So to get us started, getting into the fields, ladies, we'll start with ramping up in AI, using AI tools, or understanding AI. So to get into that conversation, I guess I'll go one by one with both of you for insights that you'd want to share around getting into the field. Did you get into your work specifically for AI, or did AI come to you? I'll start
I can kick it
with
off.
Nadia. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some perspective. So you know what? I feel like we're living in one of the best tech eras possible. So I wish I had this when I was going through my education and schooling and life and consulting, and I started my own business at one point. All of these things now, I feel you can accelerate and move so much faster. So the biggest, I guess, learning point is around have AI be an augmentation layer for you, like have it enhance the work that you're already doing, but try not to just use it to copy and paste, which we see a lot of. So the basic use cases around, I want to do an email summary or do meeting notes. That's just the basic foundational use cases around AI. But if you're trying to really get in and learn, I feel there's so many different completely free platforms that you can learn from now. I mean, I know, Samira, you have some slides that are kind of sharing all of these, like Harvard has courses, Google has courses, Salesforce has Trailhead as an example right here, where you can learn AI skills. You can learn how to be a better presenter. So everything from hard skills, so actually learning foundations, agentic AI, what that really means, all the way to what helped me be a better communicator. All of those things are now available to people for free. So you can work on the soft skills and the hard skills, and just know that AI is one of those things which is not going to go away. It is here to stay. So the only thing you can do is get on the train as fast as you can, because this train has already departed.
Yeah.
I'll let Shelby.
Totally. Yeah.
One thing to add,
Samira.
Shelby, just so I can know where folks are coming from. So I honestly assume that everyone baseline uses ChatGPT, but I'm curious for those that are watching, because Nadia, Shelby, and myself are using a plethora of AI tools. We're building AI tools. We're researching AI tools. For those that are watching, when we say AI tool, like what pops up in your head? What are you using? My biggest assumption is it's either between ChatGPT or Gemini if you're an end user that doesn't have to use it at work. But when it comes to using it at work, I'm sure there's a different tech stack that folks are being exposed to. May it be a Salesforce or some other software that you're using in your day-to-day. So for those that are watching, when we say AI tools, where are you starting? Are you starting at the OpenAI or ChatGPT tool? Honestly, all of us, especially if you're watching the Super Bowl last night, you must know about OpenAI at this point, because I think they had like 6 commercials. Like it was a lot. They had a commercial.
And Anthropic had a lot of commercials too, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And there was one with farmers. There was one with like small businesses. So AI, whether it be OpenAI or Anthropic, is really embedded into everything at this point. So let us know what tools you're using, because that is very helpful to understand. Are we talking to folks who are using it as just end users, where you may be just like asking chat a question? Or are you using it in your day-to-day work where you're using like load code tools and things like that? All right, well, folks are adding that to the chat. Go ahead, Shelby.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, looking at the audience here across different businesses, I wanted to add one of the spots that I even learned the most on how to apply AI at scale are industry AI conferences. And I want to bring that up because not everyone is even aware that there are entire conferences where people who run businesses come together and share the insights that they're learning on how when they're deploying AI to their customers. So obviously, of course, at Salesforce, we have TDX, right? Our developer conference. You'll see how we're actually deploying AI there. Dreamforce, of course, that's Salesforce though. There's it's way beyond Salesforce, right? So I can name several conferences even on top of my head. Like, for example, last year I was at many of these. I was at AI4, for example. That's in Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas last year. And that was so cool because I was able to, I was talking about how we're doing things like Salesforce, but I was learning about how other companies are deploying AI at scale in so many different verticals. Met someone who ran a line of jewelry stores, wanted to apply AI in their way, in their unique way, and trying to learn. Met someone in farming, looking to apply AI. So I think if you're getting comfortable with AI but not sure how to apply it at scale to transform your business, definitely check out all these types of conferences. I think you're going to learn a lot from people.
Absolutely. So conferences, and then one other course I didn't get to mention earlier was Harvard CS50 AI course. At this point, so many platforms are offering these resources for free. So if you're a college student, there should be not even just college students. If you're college students are looking to get into the field of AI, there really is no excuse. There's so many resources. If anything, the excuse is there's too much to choose from. So it's paralysis of just like too many options. So I would say try to pick one and finish that one resource or tool, which I know is hard because I was just sharing with the ladies before we went on live that I have a long list of AI tools I'm trying to learn, figure out how to use. There's a new one called Claude, not new, but Claude came out with this tool where you can really create your own assistant. Like someone came out with a video where they're like, I created my own personal assistant in a day using this new Claude tool. And I was like, okay, let me try that out amongst like 50 other things that I'm looking to build. So that is the resources out there for the first layer of this conversation around getting into the field. Want to just double check the quick comment. Jean uses OpenAI mostly for asking questions and getting information, trying to get a bit into getting more creative and marketing pieces. Have any of y'all used AI tools in regards to like marketing? And Jean, when you say more creative and marketing pieces, do you mean like generating images, videos, generating ideas? What do you mean by that, Jean? And while Jean's letting us know that for marketing purposes, have you all dabbled in the AI tools?
Yes, so many of them. So I'm obsessed right now with two of them. One is called Pomeli. It is actually through Google AI Studio. So Google AI Studio has a plethora of tools. There's Nano Banana, which if you haven't used it, is life-changing. It's like Photoshop on steroids, but you use natural language to communicate and you can create any kind of image. So as an example, I created a vision board for me at the beginning of the year. And I said, look, I want to be a TEDx speaker. So I'm going to put myself and all these different things so I can actually visualize, because I think the power of visualization and manifestation is real, at least for me. So I used Nano Banana to actually put my selfie, and it did it quite gracefully without distorting my face. Because sometimes when you put in ChatGPT or other tools, it kind of makes up a random image of you that may or may not look like you. So Nano Banana is a perfect marketing tool. Another one I mentioned is Pomeli. That's also through Google AI Studio. It's brand spanking new. It's actually part of their Google Labs product. So Google Labs, by the way, most underrated place to go to. It's all in beta. So essentially, you're trying out new tools as they're releasing it, but it creates beautiful marketing creative. So you put in your website, you put in a link, and it'll go and generate based on the fonts, the brands, the colors, all of that stuff.
Oh,
Very, very similar to Canva, but I feel like it's a bit
oh,
of
okay.
Canva on steroids because Canva, you still have to do a lot of manual work
Yeah, yeah.
to
Canva's
get it
AI is not
really
quite infused in Canva yet,
correct.
but once it
Mhm.
is, it will
Correct.
be powerful. But what is this one called? I'm interested even.
Pomeli, Pomeli, I believe.
Pomeli.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have
And
to check that out.
you should check it out on, just put in Google Labs, and in Google Labs, you'll see like 9, 10, I don't know, 15 different products in beta that they're releasing that you can try out. And it's one of my favorite tools right now to create very quick social media graphics.
Mm.
Here, I'm actually going to bring it up on the screen and then we can look at it so we can make sure everyone's using
Yeah, that would be
let me-
great.
yeah, make sure everyone's using what we're talking about. Ooh, LOL, maybe the live stream doesn't want me to show it. Just kidding. I'll drop the link.
Yeah, we'll drop the links after.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have so many tools, and I have like a one pager that we can share later too of all my
Yeah.
favorite AI tools. Because there are so many, I filtered it down to the top 5 that I pretty much use every day. Like I can't live without it, sort of thing. I wake up and I'm like, oh, if it's not there, I don't know how my life will function. Like, it's sad. It's sad.
Yes. I do have that link up if we wanted to show that one.
Yeah, let's go to that. Let's go to that. And also,
Okay.
everyone, like when it comes to AI tools, I actually also look to Nadia. Nadia, you're like on top of the AI tools. Like it's you. So I'm learning here too. So let's do it. Let's look
Absolutely. Yes. Here it is.
Thank you so much. So I will drop this link. It's basically, by the way, I create slide decks in something called Gamma. If you have not used Gamma, it's absolutely life-changing. So basically, it's natural language prompts. So you say, I want to create a one-pager on my AI toolbox breakdown, and it'll create it for you. Hello from Montreal. So my top 10, as you can see, obviously ChatGPT is mostly for basic stuff. So yes, do a summary, but I don't actually use it for anything else. But what I do love is Claude. So you mentioned Samira earlier, Claude. Claude is fan-freaking-tastic. Claude Cowork allows you to do all these complex use cases. You can build agents. I've created apps on it. I think I've built 6 apps between Claude and Lovable, which are fantastic. These are tools that need no technical background. Okay, I did a degree in computer science. That was 20 years ago. I don't remember anything about coding anymore. And guess what? You don't need to know anymore, because when we talk about vibe coding, these tools are all vibe coding, basically products where you speak to it. You say, I want to create an app that might be a credit card perks builder, or it might be my website, or I want to create a social media image. You're just talking like you talk to a very smart PhD intern. And these tools build it for you. So I have a strengths and weaknesses for each, because sometimes the biggest question I've gotten from people is like, what AI tool should I use? I'm like, that's not the right question. The right question to ask is, what outcome are you trying to achieve? And then we reverse engineer it back, because not every tool is going to be great for everything. So this is just a sampling of all my favorites, but Lovable, I actually bought a full year subscription to it. I build websites on it. I have built apps on it. I have released an app that actually made $80 in the first hour of its release just by publishing on Instagram. So anyway, the sky's the limit with where we're at right now. So anyway, these are my top 10 favorites, which you'll drop in the chat too.
Yes. I'll drop that link in the chat. And then we have another use case that someone shared on LinkedIn. Sorry if your name isn't popping up, but we'll be able to see it on LinkedIn after this live. But they said their team is using Chat and Claude. We mentioned Claude. Claude's been a fan favorite, sounds like so far, as an assistant in soundboard and general issues. We're also using it to get ideas, make sure we're not suffering from groupthink in a small business.
That's great.
Yes, that is very forward thinking of you all to know where your weaknesses lie, and then using AI to kind of boost that up and not alleviate, but I guess I would just say alleviate that weakness of groupthink and this team's collaborating. Hide that. So to bring us from AI careers and getting into the field as the first layer of this conversation, we're going to go into AI trends for the next part of the conversation. Now, when we say AI trends, I just want to be very real that at this point, you could write an entire newsletter daily for new AI features, new AI products, new AI updates daily. I think even internally at Salesforce, we have someone that does this weekly, and it has over 10 updates every single week of new AI products, updates, etc. So for those that are watching, I wouldn't put the pressure on yourself to keep up with everything, but we're going to highlight a few AI trends that we're aware of, we're building in, we're using, or we're trying out. And we will start with AI agents because how could we not? With all of our backgrounds, I will say AI agents are not exclusive to one platform. I know some folks think that AI agents only exist at one company, but no, this is a not Omnius. It's a what is the word where you can be it's any platform. Oh, oh Lord.
I don't know. It's everywhere. They're everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
everywhere. The word's gonna come to me later, and then I'm going to say it. But for AI agents, how are you all interacting with AI agents, Nadia or Shelby, in your role, or some use cases that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think. Oh, you want to go first, Nadia? Go. Okay. Yeah. I just, Samira, when you bring up AI agents, I want to first also make sure we're all on the same page on what an AI agent is. Because that's one of the biggest questions I get asked. I mean, everyone sees the hype around it, gets the energy around it. They probably have seen how agents work. There's LinkedIn and Twitter. I just wanted to do like a quick 30-second explanation of what is really going on here and how do we get here today. So maybe we can go to that slide where I have kind of like the view of the field. Yeah. So I just wanted to catch everyone up on where we are with agents. We're in this wave 3. I'll just focus on this wave 3 agents. I just wanted to share how we got to where we are today from 3-4 years ago at the launch of ChatGPT. So everyone here, you guys all know LLMs. You got, ChatGPT, Claude. You plug in a prompt, you get text out, right? So that's where that was this amazing breakthrough that was launched 3-4 years ago. So what we found was, this was maybe about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. What we found is that we could start to chain together those LLM calls. So we could plug in a prompt, get the LLM to generate an output, then take that output, plug it back into the LLM. We could essentially continue to use the LLM over and over again. So, for example, 4 years ago, we were using LLMs, and still today, we're still using LLMs to write emails, right? You would say, hey LLM, write me an email. LLM writes a great email. Today, fast forward to today, we can now say to an agent, write me an email and send it. So an agent can call the LLM once to write the email, then call the LLM again to write what we call an API call, or the instruction, so that it can actually be sent. So now that we can use the LLM cyclically over and over again, this is what an agent does, we can solve more complex tasks, and the LLM can actually generate, as I mentioned, those API calls. The LLM can even control a mouse, can click and actually take action. That's how we ended up with agents today. So again, long story short, what is an agent today? It's a system that calls the LLM over and over again to make a plan and to execute and do every step in that plan. That's what an agent is. Yeah.
Exactly. And someone in the chat helped me out. So they said interoperability for AI agents, which works, but I'll also say the word I was looking for was platform agnostic. Yes, but interoperability also works as well. So thank you for helping me out in the chat, for bringing that home. Thank you for that explanation. I think that was very, very helpful. Again, for those that are watching, feel free to stop us. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you're like, whoa, what does that word mean? Or if you're like myself, where you're like, I don't know what the word is, but it's right there at the tip of my tongue, you can go ahead and ask that question in the chat, and we'll go ahead and help you figure out what use case are you talking about. To bring us back for AI trends, for AI agents, Nadia, did you want to give some insight into what this looks like in your world?
Yeah, sure thing. You had the picture of the Waymo. So I feel like everybody's heard the word about agentic. people are like, well, what is agentic AI? So when you think of agentic, where we're at right now is in the generative phase, right? When we say generative AI, it's basically we're creating something to do with creation of content or creation of an agent, something that will be our digital buddy in the flow of work and do our repetitive mundane tasks, right? That's what an agent does. When you sit in a Waymo, which by the way, every time I go to San Francisco, I love sitting in Waymos. You know why? Because I love having a driverless car take me from point A to point B where I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just open it up. I can have it play the music I want. And have never felt more safer in my life. Okay. So that is what agentic is. It's fully autonomous. Now, I come from the government world. We're not quite there yet. We still need humans in the loop to make sure we're vetting the right information before it's sent out. It's relevant data. It's actually going to be accurate, especially when we're talking about public safety. We're talking about resident experiences. We want to build trust with people. And in order to build trust, we have to make sure our data is going to be 100% accurate, because this is all related to how good is our data to be able to give us the relevant response we get. Now, a lot of the LLMs, which it's funny because most of the questions I get is, well, if I can have ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity do this for me, why would I need something like a platform? Why would I need a Salesforce or any other platform that we use? And I think the biggest answer is around all of these models that you see that you play with every day. They're open models. And what I mean by that, they will go out and they will pull data from thousands, millions of data sources. It could be Reddit, it could be Threads, it could be Yelp, it could be opinions. So sometimes when you get results back, we're like, where did this answer come from? It totally does not depict. That's called hallucination, right? It kind of makes up stuff because it is taking millions of data points and crafting that answer that you're looking for. There's a big difference between using the data you provide, so it's grounded in your data, versus using an open model, which can create stuff, right, based on thousands of other points that may or may not be relevant to the data set you provided. This is the biggest differentiator in using a platform, a secure platform, versus something that's open. So that's one. And two, I kind of like to bring this back to a lot of government organizations are inherently risk averse. And we don't want to be first. So we want somebody else to try, unless you are like a San Jose or Silicon Valley or somewhere you're in the hub of tech. Most of the organizations like, you know what, let's try baby steps. Let's just make sure that whatever we provide is going to be easy. So as we're thinking about it, just know that we're seeing a lot of agentic AI in autonomous vehicles, in mobility, in transportation, because I think that's the easiest use case. But I think the next big thing is going to be around voice. So when we say voice AI, it's going to be conversational AI. It's like you're having a conversation. In fact, I was with a customer last week where he said, you know what? I never want to type again, ever, in the history of ever. I want to just speak into a portal and should create records for me. It should send my request to somebody. If I want a driver's license, it should send it to DMV automatically for me. Why should I have to type and look for which website do I need to go to? So that's the next frontier where we're headed, where typing is going to become like the BlackBerry before the iPhone era.
Absolutely.
And this is coming very fast. Like we're not talking 5 years from now. When we say future is like 6 months from now, you know?
Yep, next
it's
quarter.
a very interesting era we're in.
Yeah, and you can imagine all the challenges also with voice AI, right? Everyone has a different accents, different languages, different slang, different, imagine multiple voices on a phone call. Imagine bad connection. When you're actually building these models, you have to make them resilient to all that. So there's a lot of work to do, but as you can see every day, we're making more and more progress. Then there's also another big one is another big challenge with voice AI and voice agents is latency as well, because you speak, you want to get a response quickly. A couple extra seconds is very awkward, right? Of waiting. So that's another problem that we're seeing. But I agree with you, Nadia. It's probably 6 months or so. Like it's going to be very good. Yeah.
Yes. And you know what's sad is, and I think we're so getting used to instant gratification, which we've already been in the longest time. But now if an answer takes more than 10 seconds to come back, I switch models. I'm like, you know what? This model is not good enough. Like I need answers within 2 seconds or less, and it has to be the perfect answer. But I think that's how fast the tech is evolving. Yeah. Because I do feel everything that we're talking about right now is going to be out of date tomorrow. And there's going to be something new that comes in like, this just doesn't apply anymore because it's moving so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we go super deep into voice, one thing I saw in the comments, I want to bring up an example you were mentioning around adding your own context and having like an agentic AI experience. If you want to try that out for those that are watching, you could test out this a bit in Notebook LM. I don't know if you all have used Notebook LM before, where you can upload your own files and then interact with the chat based off of that context that you've uploaded. So if you're watching and you don't have access to like an enterprise tool or platform where you're able to do that, you can do that for free today using Notebook LM. I use that for my mom. She's a professor and she needed to change all of her curriculum and her lesson plans to a different format. And she was like, can you help me do this? Which is very tasking and manual labor. I was like, all right, send me your lesson plans, send me the format that they want you to send it in. And I showed her how to upload all of it into Notebook LM and then just have it help her go through that process very easily. I'm so glad that she's getting used to AI because it just makes her being a professor so much easier with all the manual tasks that they have to do. And then you were talking about hallucinations in agents. One thing I'll say about hallucinations is that I do think that those still persist a bit today in the technology that we're using. And I think that's a big reason why companies can't solely rely on AI and like just get rid of huge chunks of the workforce and say, you know, this handful of AI tools will do that job for us. I do think I've seen a lot of companies do that and then come back to find out due to hallucinations and a whole other host of growth areas in AI tools, we still need humans, but humans provide value in that area of the business where it doesn't make sense to do layoffs and replace them with AI. So wanted to mention that when you mentioned hallucinations and the agentic AI with context. And then we see Matt here. Matt shared that Notebook LM is pretty good. Lately, I've been using Google's Jules for code cleanup and beautifying code while you sleep. I love that.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you for sharing, Matt. So going back to voice, Shelby, are you using voice in any of the research that you're doing, or how does that look for kind of the work that's in front of you now?
Yeah, I think so some of the research that I think about could impact voice. So one of the directions that I focus on are what we call function calling models. So essentially, it was kind of tying back to this idea that I talked about before about the differentiator between an agent and a plain LLM is that it can take action. So we have these action models that we call them. Now, these action models, as you can imagine, can power a voice agent because we want the voice agent to also be able to take the right action. So from a research perspective, yeah, like there's to some extent my team is thinking about how we can power the back end of a voice agent. Now, day to day, do I use a voice agent just in my normal tasks? Yeah, I do because so the LLMs that I use, for example, for refining things or for soundboarding, sometimes again it's easier to just speak right on the phone versus type out all of your thoughts. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm definitely using it. In fact, I've seen I haven't had a chance to explore. Maybe Nadia has explored this. I don't know if you've seen some startups emerge that are I think there's a startup that is emerging that you're able to like whisper.
It's Whisperflow.
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's Whisperflow, but there are a lot of voice startups emerging, and one in particular specializes in whispering, and so they're really pushing. It's an interesting direction, and some people are saying I'm whispering all day at work. Like maybe there's something there, but I haven't tried that yet. But I think it's an interesting idea because if you have an open office setting and everyone's whispering into their phone and their microphones, like maybe that can work. Something to check out.
That sounds kind of scary. I'm just imagining going into an office place and everyone's like,
yeah, I know. I don't know. So you guys haven't seen the startup or this? Okay.
Okay. So to be honest, I did hear about it, but it was more in like a invading people's privacy abroad use case is what I saw online. Yeah, it was like this new software that specializes in whispers is like capturing all this data of people
Mm.
whispering
Whoa,
and using
okay.
it for different purposes. So, but that may be something completely different than
Yeah, it sounds completely
you're
different.
what
Yeah.
you're talking about. For those that are watching for AI voice, have you dabbled in using AI with your voice in any way? So I have a friend who uses I think it's ChatGPT and like just talking to it instead of typing in the
Right.
questions. They'll just be like, okay, so if I do this, if I do that, like what happens? And I have to tell you, maybe I'm a grandma at heart, but I still can't like it's so weird to me to be talking to a voice that sounds like a human, but it's not, and then engaging in conversation for work or what have you. That still throws me off. Nadia, and any of the tools that are on your AI toolbox list, are you using the voice feature?
All the time. I hate typing. I suck at typing. I never liked it. So for everything, I actually use voice to capture, and then I
Mm.
use that for prompting, and I'll copy and paste it in different places as my prompt for the most part. But Whisper Flow is great for that because it integrates with your keyboard, so you actually can do text like that. Like it's way better than Siri if you're an iPhone user.
Mm.
So that's one. But 11 Labs is fantastic. So 11 Labs is kind of sort of our backend to some extent too for Agent Force Voice.
Mhm.
And it is fantastic. Like it can now you're at a point where you can take my static image, you can make a video like with Grok Imagine. I can take any static photo of me, put it in Grok Imagine, and it'll create a full video of wherever I want to be. So as an example, I've created some when I was at Dreamforce, or I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm in San Francisco. Show me with the background of the Golden Gate Bridge, and it will do that in
Mm.
a motion setting. So along with voice, there's a concept of motion in videos, which media production is going to change completely, radically. Even
Yeah.
looking at it in movies and movie settings, it's like, how is that going to be for actors moving forward when you don't need physical actors and you can use an image of them to create a whole production movie? There's a lot of different things that I feel when people start writing down use cases. I think the best way to kind of learn AI practically, yes, you can take courses. Yes, you can listen to people. Yes, you can go and read newsletters and listen to the thousands of podcasts, but the only way you're going to learn is hands-on keyboard. This is one of those this is one of those moments where you have to become and learn how to build. And I think it's so much easier and you really capture the essence of how fast this tech is moving. Whale said Whisper Flow, Oasis, AutoAdd, they're all amazing tools for talking to AI. Like one of the hacks I do is I go to so many conferences and I attend all these industry events. I actually turn on my voice recorder for sessions. Like obviously they're public sessions.
Yeah.
I can do that and I just record and give me the takeaways. It's so easy and it's so much more efficient than trying to write it down. So all the tools that Whale mentioned actually is one of them.
Yeah, I use Otter. Otter's great
Yeah.
too.
That's very helpful because especially when you're at conferences, sometimes your mind is all over the place. You're networking, there's a lot going on. So recording and then taking notes after that's a really great use case. I'm gonna steal that one. I'm gonna have to use that. We have voice, and then we have where does the LLM come in, and then we'll do vibe coding to bring us together for AI trends. So where does the LLM come in? I know all of us, this comes from different perspectives. For me, coming from the solution specialist world, where we're demoing these products to customers, there's that use case that you mentioned earlier, Nadia, where we want to provide a platform to customers where they can use their own context to be able to have this agentic experience. So sometimes that means bringing in third-party platforms to enhance the platform that we have today to give access to the LLM capabilities. For both of your worlds and perspectives, what does that look like?
Yeah, I kind of covered this a little bit, but again, all this technology that we're talking about, AI agents, voice agents, vibe coding, robotics, which we'll get to too. This is all based on the LLM technology. So much has come from LLMs. And so what I'll say is that as a researcher, I lead a research team. A lot of our core work is around building and improving LLMs, because if we can do that, then we can power all these use cases, whether it's voice, whether it's AI agents. So a big a big focus of AI research is on the LLM training, right? Whether it's pre-training, which is pre-training or fine-tuning or reinforcement learning. All of these aspects make up the vast the vast portion of our focus as a research team. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And want to do a quick time check. So we have 3 layers of this cake, getting into the field for the conversation, AI trends, and then demo and production. So let's hit on vibe coding for AI trends, and then we'll go to the next layer of the cake so that we can end on time. So for vibe coding, to kind of get a feel of where you all are coming from for the viewers that are watching, have you tried vibe coding before? You can put yes or no. Have you indulged in vibe coding yet? I think vibe coding was an evolution of everyone using AI. It was the next wave of how to use the technology.
Mhm.
Have you had the opportunity to vibe code or not? Let's go ahead and bring that in. And then we have Joshua saying hi. Hi, Joshua. Welcome to the conversation. If you have any questions throughout the conversation, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we appreciate you for engaging in the conversation. But yeah, go ahead and let us know in the chat, have you done vibe coding or not? I will say, based off of this audience, I do understand we have a big amount of entrepreneurs and small business. So you may not be on the building side as much. For when you hear the term vibe coding, it may sound more technical than what you are comfortable with. But I will say, as Nadia mentioned, you use the phrase hands-on keyboard for these AI tools. Like, I think that's very important, even if you're not technical. Just like I said with my mom, who's a professor. Like, as a professor, she's not technical at all. And to get her to use AI tools, like, that just goes to show that that it is possible.
And you just have to start. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I think when I first, 4 years ago, when, LLMs first emerged, when I first started using it, I only had maybe one idea. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to really do with this. Like, okay, I can plug in a paragraph and it summarizes it. Okay. Like, and then eventually now I have hundreds of use cases that I use it for. So you'll see it, but you have to just start brainstorming, talk to people. People have a lot of great ideas. Eventually you'll integrate the use cases in your real life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for those, just to maybe set the context, for those who don't know what vibe coding is, honestly, it's just a fancy term for you using conversational language, like you talking and saying, you know what, I want to create an app, or I want to create a landing page. Just create it for me with these colors, with these fonts. Here's my brand. Here's my pictures, add it in there. As an example, and I have so many examples because I'm obsessed with vibe coding right now. Like, this is my weekend projects. I have written down, I have like a Google Doc with 100 plus ideas of apps that I wish existed. And now we're at a point where you can create those apps for yourself. You don't need to find a developer to do them. But essentially, I created my own website in less than 30 minutes. If you go to nadiahanson.com, it's vibe coded. I created, I have all of these credit card perks, essentially, that I get. I have an Amex Platinum, I have Chase Sapphire, I have Preferred, I have all of this. And you get certain things, and I never use them. And I was like, oh my God, this is the year that I'm actually going to use it. So I vibe coded an app that actually pulls all of my benefits from all these credit cards and tells me what's remaining, so I can actually utilize it for the remaining course of the year. So you can use it as practical for really personal projects that you like, or even on the professional side. Like I talked about Gamma earlier, when you're presenting, creating slide decks, it helps you accelerate a lot faster. So I would highly encourage, so I have the privilege of teaching at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And I teach AI for executives. And one of the tools we've talked about is Lovable and Replit. So they're both very, very similar. If you haven't used any of them, Lovable, I feel, is for easy baby use cases. You can build an app on it. You can create websites. It's perfect for website design. Replit is better for any kind of more complex use cases. Let's say you're trying to connect it to Stripe and you're going to be taking payments, and maybe you need to connect it to 3 different sources. You're connecting Zapier, all these different tools that come into play. You can use now all of these tools without having to hire a developer. Like, you could just do it yourself. You could get it to the point where it's a great proof of concept. And before then, you used to use Figma or you would use different tools to come up with what the proof of concept looked like. Me, I used to just draw it out, right? So finally, we can take that drawing to actually physical something where I can give it to a developer to add security, to add governance layers, to make sure that all the risks are mitigated. That's something you have to keep in mind. I see a lot of people vibe coding. They put stuff out there, but it doesn't have the right security protocols, the risk mitigation in place.
Yep.
And I think that's just something to keep in mind, that when you are using these vibe coded products, especially if you're taking people's information in, PCI related data, maybe it's HIPAA related data, whatever that might be, you need to have some safety and security protocols in place. And that you either need to research that heavily on how to build that yourself or hire somebody to do that. But putting it out there, sometimes it's promoted as, oh my gosh, now you can create something and ship it out and you have a working app in 5 days.
Yeah.
But you kind of forget the security aspect of it, which is another whole different conversation.
Well, that's part of the theme of our talk even today, right? Like the idea that a demo is a demo, it takes a lot more to get to production, right? It's security, but it's a lot more. It's ethics. It's
Correct.
It's consistency of performance, which sometimes we're not even seeing, right? There's like all these other aspects that you have to think about when we actually put it in front of mass amount of customers. Yeah.
Yep, vibe coding is just a small section of the total soft developer life cycle in regards to bringing a demo to production for AI tools. With the vibe coding tool, you're prompting this platform, you run it, and then boom, you have what you're looking for. And then you can just continue to prompt, make tweaks before you have your final view. So for example, when I just want to show a customer an MVP, I can use the vibe coding tool and create a entire user experience or custom dashboard that looks beautiful. But once it gets to that customer being like, great, I'm going to buy it, let's move forward to me actually using this, I almost have to scrap that whole thing. And we start from the beginning with making sure we actually go through the right process to get that tool into the customer's platform, which will go more in depth in the next part of this conversation. But good point, Shelby. This is exactly the theme, is that vibe coding is just a part of going from a beautiful sales pitch to that final the final production, customer production org. And then Matt said that it's a good idea to build a website to show what you're coding. So it sounds like, Matt, you're saying like a portfolio use case.
Yes,
so building your own portfolio would be a good idea for building a website. Absolutely. Both professionals and students. I think building a portfolio using Lovable. And then what was that second website, Nadia?
Replit.
Replit would be perfect.
They're both very easy interfaces to be able to build something. You don't need to be a coder. If you want a little bit more advanced, you go to Cursor, and you can build a lot with Cursor. Like that is where you build agents and even like Claude Cowork now honestly can do a lot of this stuff for you if you're looking at multi-agents, which by the way, we cannot have a conversation about agents without talking about Claude Bot or Mold Bot or whatever the heck it's called now, bot, which is, if you haven't heard and if you haven't opened X, for whatever reason, it is everywhere. So essentially, this one guy created an AI agent platform where there's only agents talking to each other. It's only AI talking to humans are observing. So that's one. And two, people have bought, by the way, don't put this on your actual computer. Like, yeah, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. What do you think of agent communities like Moldbook? It is crazy to me that we're even talking about it in this era right now. Like, agents are talking to one another. They're fixing each other's code without human interaction. It's wild. But I do think, and I've seen so many different tutorials, whether it's on Maven or YouTube, where people have built things. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, do not install this on your regular home computer. You need to buy a mini Mac or something, a totally separate environment, because it does take control. It acts as the host of everything that you're doing. So it'll have your account privileges, it'll do things because you're trying to make it do complex functions. So especially if you're building multi-agent platforms where, let's say, if I have an email come in, I want you to respond. And by the way, send me a Slack message at the same time. So I get notified and, I also want a text, give me my whole day summary. You can do all kinds of things, but just remember to put it on a separate environment. So I had to mention that because it's everywhere right now. And I think people are trying to use it pretending like it's okay to put it on my work computer or my personal.
Oh,
Do not do that.
yeah. Good word of
Good
caution
call out.
for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
good call out. For AI trims and vibe coding, anything else that you all wanted to add to share and bits of advice or use cases that you're using vibe coding for?
I think we
Doing vibe
covered. I
coding?
think we covered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, so that'll bring us to the next layer of the conversation, which will be demo to production. And as you all have seen, we're all coming at this from different use cases. So for myself as a solution specialist, I'm going through a customer from pre-sales and sometimes to the post-sales handoff. And I think for AI tools specifically, I think the handoff is where there's some misalignment. I think that's where the customer sees that magic AI that we vibe coded or that we built an MVP for. And then things get really sad when implementation starts and we're going through the design and planning and we come across maybe some limitations or we come across either be limitations of the platform or limitations of their tech stack. That means that they can't get that shiny MVP that we saw. But to give you all some insight, at least from my perspective, before I hand it off to Nadia and Shelby on what that looks like for them. So for me, for that handoff from sales demo to production, we do the demo. We show the value of the platform, the capabilities of that AI tool to the customer. You would be doing this experience if you're someone like myself who is a solution specialist and you are hands-on keyboard and then handing that off to the customer. You'll be going through experience like this. The customer would go through solution design and planning. So this is when we're doing like production architecture or tech stack reviews. If they have data pipelines or they integrating data, like Nadia mentioned, like using Zapier to do integrations and things like that with other systems. That's when we're having those conversations. We're talking about data readiness. I think when it comes to new platforms, cleaning up data is always a part of the implementation process. So we're understanding the volume and velocity of data that would need to go into the platform. And then we would model the deployment. I think that that's when we need to make sure that we're using the customer's correct endpoints. We are understanding, like we mentioned earlier, latency or throughput targets. Because with a lot of these AI tools that we're seeing marketed, the speed of how an end user can use that platform, it doesn't necessarily match what customers are using. And I think that's mainly because there's maturity of the technology that needs to come into play. But then also sometimes there is overpromising and the demo before it gets to the customer. So your actual user experience comes out when you're doing that testing and validation. And then that's when we can go through to getting you production ready. So that would be a high level view for what that looks like from a solution specialist. And that's very general. I'm not going into a specific industry. So if you have a question for like a specific industry or a specific product, as you know, I'm at Salesforce. So this is for a SaaS solution. This looks different depending on the type of product that AI product that we're talking about or the type of customer. So I'll pause there and I'll let Nadia and Shelby, if you want to give from your perspective, what would that look like from the conversations that you're having to the customer actually being able to use that tool?
So, I deal with a lot of governments, and in government entities, the biggest thing I see is it's less conversations about what tools, but it's more around, okay, here's the specific outcome we want to solve for. Once we know the outcome, what does the governance setup look like? So I think even before we start talking about production, you are touching so many different stakeholders. You have sometimes people think that AI or any kind of production release is an IT problem. In this scenario, it is not just IT. You cannot just point to them and be like, you're the fault of this. No. So essentially, when you're setting up governance, that includes you have your different stakeholders, which will be IT, which will be your legal department. It could be a procurement department. It's your business value people. Who are the people who are going to be touching this on a day-to-day basis? And then establish some data protocols around it. Like how many times have we seen, we collect so much data from being a government agency, but what is it actually used for and how are we using it? I think define some of those protocols up front. So when you do implement AI, any kind of, whether it's predictive or generative or at some point agentic, whatever tool you use, you're going to be getting the relevant data back that you're looking for in the hands of the stakeholders that require that specific set of data, if that makes sense. So I think governance protocols are so important as we set things up before we even start talking about rolling it into production or user acceptance testing or anything like that. There's a whole communication plan that goes with it. How are we going to bring residents forward? As an example, which I love, San Jose released an AI initiative for all. Their mayor actually released it, I want to say about 3 or 4 months ago. And essentially it is training all the resident communities on the basics of AI use.
Oh,
How do
thanks.
you know that you're going to get phished? How do you know that this is safe? How do you know what the email that you're getting is legit or not, right? So it's kind of training people to spot certain things which can, one, help them in their own day-to-day, but also understand where we're headed as we move forward. So it's kind of an upskilling program. And I feel like if there's one takeaway that you take from this, is like, please invest in your people, because at the end of the day, any technology can do what you want it to do. It'll come down to your people and it'll come down to the processes. And if your people are not upskilled and not ready and you're getting resistance and pushback and you don't have change management in place, this is a completely pointless exercise. So that'll just be my takeaway before we even talk about production, is like, where are your people at? Like, how are we training everybody? What's our communication plan to bring people on board?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, much of what Samira and Nadia, much of what you guys both said, it resonates even when it comes to the process of what it takes to build custom models or to build new models for customers. So everything you said, it all applies. I'll just add one more step that kind of tells us when we're ready to deploy a model. And one of the most important pieces there is the evaluation data set. So when we're demoing, I'm sure you guys have this experience. When you're demoing, you can just show a few cool examples, right? Awesome. AI looks like it's working perfectly. But when it's ready when we're deploying it, it needs to work for every customer. It needs to work well, even if the customer says things differently, even if the situation changes, even if the customer has, is a different type of language. We need to make sure it works in all of those cases. And so behind the scenes, what's going on is that we're often trying to come up with this evaluation data set that captures all of that. And that's how we're able to measure, is this model ready beyond the demo? Yes, the demo, we showed 3, 10, 20 examples. Great. Eval set has to be much bigger, much more robust. So what we can be confident that, hey, this model can handle a lot of variation. So that's, practically speaking, that's one of the important steps.
That's awesome. And I think for those that are watching, the amazing part of this conversation is how all of us are coming to this from different perspectives. So you really get to see, when it comes to using AI, how different folks who are working in the space are thinking about it differently. And I think that's just, I just had an out of body experience, just hearing all of us talk about it from different perspectives. And this is really what you need to be able to see and understand.
Well, it's different perspectives towards the same thing. Like, we're all actually,
exactly.
all of us here, all three of us, we are deploying AI for our customers. It's just that, Samira, you own that part. Nadia, you own that part. I own this other part, but we need all of these pieces to do it successfully.
Exactly. And with a few minutes left, we can all have some wrap up summary parts. But for those that are watching, I'm just curious, to close us out, what is your AI wish list? We've talked about AI from different perspectives. We've talked about getting into the field. We've talked about demo to production, AI trends. What is your AI wish list? Be it, I wish my AI tool did this, or I wish that I was able to use AI to do, X, Y, or Z. As we look to the future, maybe future conversations, or just the future of how we're building, thinking about, or using technology, what is your AI wish list? And as folks are adding that to the chat, Nadia and Shelby, we have about 2 minutes thinking about the theme of this conversation and like what we've talked about so far. Any thoughts of it or advice that you want to give our viewers or anything from your perspective or use cases that you think would be helpful to share.
I will share some of my favorite podcasts. So I listen to a lot of different podcasts every day. I go for a long walk. And some of the ones that I love right now, if you're really looking to upskill, is one is called How I AI with Claire Vaux. It's really, really good. It's very tactical and practical. She invites people who come and share their use case and actually demonstrate how they built it.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
I love that. It's super easy to understand. So if you're just kind of dabbling and trying to get more inspiration around how can I simplify my life, that's one way to go about it. Second, I also do publish a newsletter where I post AI hacks. I live in this. I breathe it every day. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I simplify my life where I can clone myself 9 different ways so I don't have to do boring, redundant, mundane things anymore. So feel free to follow that newsletter as well. And that the third thing would be, in terms of newsletters, I love Lenny's newsletter. If you haven't, he's a product person. He invites product managers to come on his podcast, and they share a plethora of things, whether it's art of the possible or where we're headed in the tech world, or how can we utilize it today, what tools would be best. So I feel like it kind of does a very nice roundup summary of where we're headed and what the future could look like. So I think those would be my takeaways for everyone.
Beautiful. Shelby?
Yeah, I would add, get started using AI today for sure. But I also want to add that I think it's worth the investment of time to actually understand how AI works and how it's built. Because if you can understand that, then you can actually understand the shortcomings and you can better understand when to use what. AI doesn't have to be a black box. It is a technology that has been built, over the past couple of decades. You can understand it piece by piece. It's almost like understanding how a car works. You can understand how AI works under the hood. And so I encourage that, because when you have that sort of first principle understanding, then you'll have an intuitive sense on when AI makes sense, when it doesn't make sense, how to improve the AI, how to fix the AI, how to repair it. So it's a worthwhile investment. And many of the resources we talked about today in the beginning can help you get there.
Beautiful. Thank you all for sharing. And thank you, Manuel and Jean, for sharing some of your AI wish list. We are at time for the evening. I'll quickly show it and then we'll quickly go to our ending. More and easier integrations to speed up use cases. In my head, I have like the Salesforce plug, open API. Jean, is there recommendation things not to put in AI, or a way that if I ask something from it, mark it not to be shared?
Oh, shared. What? Okay.
Or to be spread.
Yeah. So I would always say, do not put in personal information that you would not want to share with your neighbor. So as an example, do not put in addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, bank information, P&L. I've had customers who put in all of the financial data with names of people, with every single detail that you can imagine. So try not to do that, because I think what you're putting out there, especially if you're using any of these public models that we talked about, it means that at some point it's going to be shared. It's using your data to provide irrelevant information to somebody else. So keep that in mind in terms of things not to share. Whatever you would never share with your neighbor, do not put that. That's the easiest way to think about it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I'm always seeing articles of engineers who are putting their company's proprietary code in these tools. So don't do that when you're vibe coding or, using AI to help troubleshoot. Don't get in trouble. Don't lose your job. So that would definitely be one of the don'ts. I don't think there's anything else glaring, just like personal information. Anything that you wouldn't want, like your manager, like just bringing up during a one-on-one and being like, did you do this? I think that's something that I think about when I'm using like AI tools at work. And then personal life, I think same thing. Don't put anything out there that you wouldn't want your neighbor to pull up and say, is this you? Is this your information?
Yeah, we're out of time, but there may be another talk. This is a big problem that we pointed out. That's why small language models are a hot topic, because with the small language model, it lives on your laptop. So if you have something private, it never goes to anyone else. So anyway, that's a whole discussion for another day. But if anyone's interested, look up small language models. You can learn about it. It might be something you're interested in.
I
I'm
think we could do
smelling on part
small
2.
language models for the next one and also ethics and bias because we didn't touch on it today. So some of the bad use cases would be anything around HR, or maybe you're letting completely AI do autonomous ranking and vetting and evaluation of people,
Right.
especially
Mhm.
candidates coming into an organization. Just very quick as an example, I think 4 years ago I gave ChatGPT my image and I was like, "Hey, based on everything you know about me, like, what do you think I look like?" And it came up with an image of a guy with a beard and glasses because I'm like, "Oh, you're in tech, so this is what you must look like." 4 years later, now fast forward to today, I did the same exercise again and I actually published in my newsletter. It came up, it's finally realized that I'm a woman based on all the selfies that I put on there, but it still didn't have my image right, right? So I think just kind of there's little
Yeah.
nuances where AI hasn't quite been fleshed out yet. So those are use cases you should not use it for, especially when it comes to HR, ethics, bias related stuff.
Amazing, amazing. So we smell a part 2 coming. And with that being said, ladies, you all stay on, but I'm going to bid everyone goodbye now. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take
Thanks so
care.
much.
Thanks for coming.